Yo, got another video for you guys, and this time it's Sir Lenny Henry. He faces backlash for claiming all black Britons should be paid slavery reparations, and suggests a Robin Hood tax on financial transactions could fund it. That's crazy, crazy, crazy. It makes black people seem even more lazy, as the stereotype may put. I mean, it's bad. Like, we live in a day and age now where you can monetize anything. So why on earth would you want handouts? It seems like hand-me-down handouts. I'm sick of it. Black people go out to work these days to earn their living. They don't need reparations. But let me read on. The comedian has argued in a new book that the UK should hand over an unspecified, he doesn't know how much, he's just making these numbers out of his head, pulling them out of his ass, unspecified amount of money to the black population because of the effects of slavery. Has slavery affected black people that much? Man, I have to read on. Where's this going, Lenny Henry? He justified this by saying the reason for modern day racism and institutionalized racism in the police forces can be traced back to the transatlantic slave trade. Wow. Man, I never knew they had police forces back then. That baffles me the most. I'm not being sarcastic, maybe I am, but police forces in the 1700s? I mean, I guess there should be police back then, but they were racist and stereotyped black people back then, but they were slaves, right? So, how did that work out? What, did they have someone in a horse and carriage? They'd be like, stop that guy in the horse and carriage. He look like he up to something. He's not with his slave master. The book, The Big Payback, also said reparations must dismantle the foundations of the world's society built on slavery and racism and make new foundations. It cited a figure from a report in 2023 published by the University of West Indies, which concluded the UK owed more than 18 trillion in slavery reparations. Oh my god, this is crazy. 18 trillion. Where did they get that number from? Reparations, 18 trillion? The study suggests that if the UK paid off the reparations for the next 25 years with an interest rate of 2.5%, it would equate to about 740 billion a year. Boy, you white folks are in trouble. Whew. Man, we need to raid Elon Musk's trust fund, man, with that type of money. That is a 740 billion a year. Where's that gonna come from? But the reports only said the total should be paid to 14 countries, including former colonies in the Caribbean, and did not include any figure for Black Britons. Okay, Sir Lenny Henry also looked at theories for how such a amount should be generated, if given it equates to around 7 times Britain's gross domestic product of 2.7 trillion. Yeah, Lenny Henry, have you thought this through? Like, where the money gonna come from? Who are you gonna tax? Just tax rich white people? It's like, you're white, you're rich, we're taxing you. It's like, why? For slavery reparations. You know what I mean? It sounds nuts. It almost sounds like a joke from a Lenny Henry skit. It just sounds so far-fetched. You just think to yourself like, this can't be real, right? This must be a joke. It just doesn't make any sense. Look, one is a financial transaction tax or Robin Hood tax, which would be a tax on the purchase of sales of bonds, stocks, and derivatives or foreign exchange transactions. Man, things are taxing us as it is. They taxed us as much as it is with everything. Now we're gonna have another tax, but then this doesn't make any sense, Lenny Henry. You're doing all this. It's not just gonna affect white people. It's gonna affect black people as well. Money has to come from somewhere, and black, Asian, white, we all contribute to society and to the economy. And you're gonna tax black people to pay black people back their money that they owed? Unless you're gonna say like, you're black, you don't pay this. Because the money comes from, it has to come from a system, right? So make it make sense. Where's this? Unless you sit down there and you say, if you're black, you don't pay anything towards this. But then that just becomes racist now. So you just looking at an everyday white person born in the system of society in this day and age, who had nothing to do with slavery, and you're gonna be taxing them for their past ancestors. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. So everything their past ancestors have done, you're gonna tax them for. But anyone that's black born now doesn't pay. It makes no sense, Lenny Henry. Sir Lenny Henry said he loved the poetic justice of this, given the modern international banking system was literally built off the proceeds of transatlantic slave trade. Okay, I'm gonna see if that makes any sense, but it just doesn't make sense at all. Okay, where were we now? Another idea also put forward by Mr. Doshi and referenced in the book was a repurpose financial transactions. Alright, I'm still going to read this through because it still makes no sense. This means that when a country is fined for an international recognized crime, the money generated would be given to countries who were the victim of slavery. In the book, which is published by Faber Tomorrow, Sir Lenny Henry writes that all black people, or black British people, need reparations for slavery, and we personally deserve money for the effects of slavery. The book does not address how most of the 2.4 million black people in Britain are of direct African descent. This is what I was saying. You could be a black person or a white person just born maybe 25 years ago, and you can't be affected by slavery. You born in the modern day. So I want to know how slavery could affect somebody born in the modern day. But yeah. Let's see where it says. African, rather than being African or enslaved into the Caribbean. But Sir Lenny Henry and his co-author Marcus Ryder, a TV executive and media diversity campaign and inclusion, claim that modern racism is because of the slave trade. Sir Lenny Henry says that the reason why we have racism today, and also why black people are grossly overrepresented in the prison population, and other issues such as a high level of black unemployment, are all because of the transatlantic slave trade. So let me get this straight. You're born in modern day Britain and you end up in prison for you being black, and you go in there and they ask you why you here. You say, because of slavery. Slavery brought me here. Tell me that makes sense. If you are black and you end up in prison, maybe you were set up by some racist police officers. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of this because it makes no sense. People go to prison because they commit crimes. Simple as that. You don't just send you to prison because you're born black. You can't just be birthed, born, and be like, go to prison. It's like, why? Because you're black. Unless there's police officers purposely stitching you up. And if they are, you should get a good lawyer and sue them. Because you shouldn't be stitched up by police officers because you're black. But you aren't going to end up in prison if you're a law-abiding citizen and you pay your taxes and you go to work and look after your kids. There should be no reasons why police officers. I mean, if they, I have seen where police officers do pick on people. I'm not gonna lie about that. And those people have been, those police officers have been exploited on the news. And we look at them and we say, yes, those were racist police officers. But majority of people, black people, they go about their business. They go to work and mind their business. If you are that person who goes to work, mind their business, pay their taxes, and you end up in prison, you've done something wrong to end up in prison. You can't go end up in prison and be like, slavery brought me here. This is why I'm here. No, that's an excuse. You end up in prison because you've done something bad. You've killed somebody, or you're selling something you shouldn't be selling. Simple as that. You ain't gonna end up in prison just because you're black. And this is what it sounds like Lenny Henry's saying. He's saying, oh yeah, because of slavery, yeah, black people end up in prison more. It's like, no. That's not the reason why. There's black, white, Asian in prison. They said, oh, he's saying that there's more black people in prison. Well, black people need to look themselves in the mirror and think to themselves like, how did I end up in prison? What did I do to end up in prison? As a black person, you should like, look in the mirror and think, how did I end up here? Maybe I shouldn't have sold cocaine. Maybe I should have gotten an actual good job instead of dealing drugs. Or maybe I shouldn't have killed somebody from a rival gang. You know, you just ain't going to end up in prison by accident. As I said, unless the police deliberately stitch you up. Which, in sometimes that happens. I'm not gonna say it don't happen. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you get a situation where the police will deliberately target somebody who is black, and they stitch them up. But that's very rare. Very, very rare. But are they targeting black people on the streets? There's some racism going on. But as I said before, if you mind your own business, they'll stop you. Let them stop you, and then embarrass them and send them home. Simple as that. This is hilarious. The book also says representation should be used for ridding the world of racism, ensuring the redistribution of power and changing how the power is shared within countries and between countries. Yo, this is crazy, man. This is all the reparations that needs to be paid. It's a lot, man. Do I think Lenny Henry's right about this? I think there's a point of I'm gonna go straight to comment because there's a point of this where this comes across a bit delusional. He can demand all he wants, but it ain't gonna happen. I look at Dawn French and think, my lord, what on earth was going through your mind? Can we have reparations for all the crimes black people have committed? Such a great comedian in his day. Terrible what dementia can do to a person. Oh, this is crazy. Oh man. Lenny Henry? Lenny who? Lammy who? Empty vessels make the most noise. And they are noisy. But who are they? Certainly not famous. An old comedy duo. Both unattractive, probably bad breath and awful baddie. Spread a little happiness out of your 9 million net worth then, Lenny. Ah, man. We were the last group to join in and the first to stop. Our reward is people like Lenny Henry in our midst. See why Dawn French left him. Lost the plot. This guy is a joke. Ask your friends Kemi if he agrees. He's on about green shield stamps. Asking people to pay what ancestors did 500 years ago is racist and stupid. This is what I was saying. You know, like, people have moved on. Black people have jobs. They have jobs now. They're not outcasts. You could even look. This is it. There is racism, but you could monetize anything. I can this video right now. I can monetize it. Right, it's not monetized, but it can be monetized. I could be orange. I could be purple. I could be black. There's nothing stopping me from getting money through YouTube, unless the people behind YouTube are racist, which they're not. They could be. So I couldn't be born a couple years ago. I'm not saying how old I am, and I'd be like, why I don't really have much work coming in? It's because of slavery. It's ridiculous. Like, and then you asking white people born maybe just the other day, maybe 50 years ago, and like you need to pay for their ancestors. And the way they're trying to get the money doesn't even make any sense. They're trying to figure a way to make money, but then it becomes racist in itself, where you're making certain people pay money because of the color of their skin, and we're all part of the system. Everybody pays their taxes, but they say, "Oh, you should tax it through here. You should get through here." It's like, but then how a black person might not be part of this company? They're gonna be paying the tax, right? Unless you exclude everybody that's black. And how that how would you be able to tie their ancestry back to Africa? So they need to be paid the reparations. It becomes convoluted and stupid. It's that simple. It is really dumb. But yeah, I'm out, man. I'm out because I saw this and I thought, let me just make a video about it. Because this seems really ridiculous. And I'm not racist. I'm not a racist person, but I just think to myself, like, how is this trillions? Like, how is it going to be paid? It just makes no sense. And people were saying the same thing. Like Lenny, he definitely lost the plot. It's a shame because he used to be one of my favorite comedians. He stopped being funny years ago. At one point, he came on. He had his show, and the show just seemed like it just lost its soul. And I'd never really seen him have his own show again since that time. I think it was a Lenny Henry show. They brought him back, and it was terrible. I thought to myself, like, man, I thought maybe I lost my funny bone. But his comedy, I think it just aged badly. People evolve now. But yeah, I'm out. Like and subscribe. On to the next video.